Welcome back to the Watch Before You Die podcast. I am Ben, and with me I have Brian. And as you can see, Justin is not with us this week. He has a ton of work-related things going on right now. Could not make it to the actual filming of the podcast, but he did send us a video to share some of his thoughts as well as his rating for the movie that we watched this week. The movie, by the way, was 13th, which was on Netflix. If you missed last week's episode, we are talking about 13th on Netflix. And before I throw it over to Justin, I will say this episode might be a bit shorter for a few reasons. One, we don't have our comedic relief with us, and two, it's a bit of a difficult movie to talk about. So let's hear Justin's initial thoughts, and then we will get into it.
What's up, YouTube? Anyway, sorry, I'm taking a very shaky found footage clip from my car outside of where I work. Ben may say something about how crazy things are during this season. I am not able to be with the boys to record the podcast, and we're running out of time for the episode to come out on Sunday, which you better catch the episode, so you better have watched this movie. The movie is Netflix's 13th, talking about the 13th Amendment. It's a movie about our corrections system and just a whole bunch of other stuff that led to arguably some modern day slavery, things like that. It's a very important movie. It's a movie you should watch. If I had to say what my thoughts are regarding how Brian and Ben would rate this movie, I would say that both of them rated it pretty high, because I don't know how anyone would not rate this movie high. But I don't know if that's because of the nature of the content, sort of carrying it to a higher threshold. But I would have to rate this movie at like I'd say like a 9. I'd say, and I went from like an 8.1. I'd say probably like a 9.2, because I think this movie was good. It's important. Right? The content is important to our nation, certainly to our society, to our culture. These are issues that need to be talked about and not avoided, even if they are uncomfortable. But also, I think the movie was really well done.
All right, now that we kind of heard what Justin thought and also what he thought we thought of the movie, I think we just get into ratings. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
All right, I'll let you go first then. Give me your rating of the movie.
So I have to say, similar to Justin's thoughts, it's pretty hard to dislike or disagree with too much of what this movie presented. Mm-hmm. The only thing you don't really like to hear is obviously some of the facts that are being thrown your way, a horrible way that we've treated each other in the past. But the documentary is super well made. I love many parts of it, and I really appreciate just all that went into making this documentary. One thing I will say about any documentary on this list is rewatchability is pretty low for me.
Yeah,
there are very few documentaries that I'm gonna go back to and watch again, and just as a result, that's going to bring my rating down a little bit, because I think if a movie's like a 9-10, like I feel like it's got to be like, man, I put that on almost every other weekend, or once a month or whatever. Okay. So I'm going to put my rating at like an 8.2.
Okay.
I really liked it. I really liked the quality of it. We can get into more specifics soon, but that's about where I have this documentary for me.
Okay, 8.2. All right. So I guess I'll give mine. My rating is actually interesting. Justin in his video said that he thought that our ratings would be pretty high. And we'll get to his rating here in a second, but mine is actually a bit low, I think. And sure. I do agree, like the rewatchability is certainly a factor, but more specifically for me, I'm a really big documentary fan. Like, I really enjoy documentaries. Like, if it's a documentary on Netflix, I've seen it. And this was the case. I had already seen this movie a very long time ago, like right when it probably released. And
Okay.
so I had seen it and kind of forgotten it, but coming back to it a second time, um, and rewatching it, it just kind of left me wanting a bit more. Not as far as content goes, obviously, but just in general. And I'll give you more
Okay.
thoughts on that in a second. But my rating is actually like a 7.5.
Okay.
So I will most likely have the lowest rating out of the three of us,
Maybe.
and
Yeah, yeah. I guess you do. I guess we've
and
all rated it by this
yeah,
point.
yeah. So
Um, that does bring our average, our overall rating of this movie to an 8.3
okay,
for this
yeah.
week.
So because Justin was at a 9.2, so
Correct.
yeah. So you said 8.3.
8.3.
Okay. Well, I'll jump in then again and give you why I rated it as low as I did. So I alluded to it, right? But for me, documentaries, to make a really good documentary, I feel like it has to flow perfectly. Like it has to, like, some movies you can get away with, you can get away with like cliffhangers or cut scenes or skip scenes almost, where you're like, that didn't really make sense in the context, and then you can come back to it later. But for me, documentaries have to flow perfect from start to finish. There can't be anything where you're left at the end going, I'm not really sure what the point of that scene was, or it didn't seem to fit quite right, or
Sure.
it just felt a little bit broken at times. And that's a bit how I felt at times. It just felt a little bit like choppy at sections for
Okay.
me. And the other thing that I would say is, though I thought the content of the movie was incredible, um, it was a bit strange to me that, the movie obviously was pointing to a very sad reality of the United States prison system and the things that are going on in it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it used obviously voices that would back up that story and share that truth. And I thought the voices were excellent. What I thought was a bit strange is like there was just like one or two, I guess you'd say, antagonists of the film
Yeah.
that kind of they
Sure.
brought in to kind of share the other side of it or the other opinion on it, but there wasn't enough of it to feel like natural to me. It felt a bit like off. I feel like you could do a documentary on this topic in one of two ways. You could bring people from both sides
Mm-hmm.
and share a story side by side of their thoughts on this as it goes and progresses,
Yeah.
or you could just share one side. We're just going to tell you a story of what has happened. Because I've seen a little bit of both. This one was like 98%, I'm going to tell you a story, and 2% we're going to bring these people in just so you know that they're kind of the enemies or the bad guys or the people that disagree with us.
Right.
So it felt a bit, I don't know, it just didn't feel natural to me. But that was just my opinion.
Sure.
But I
Sure.
do think, like, positive note, I do feel this content is necessary. Like, you need to go watch this movie, because I feel like
Oh,
a lot of
absolutely.
people probably are very unaware of like what the prison system in the United States looks like and what the 13th Amendment even is. So yeah, that's my good and bad of the movie and why I rated it what I
Sure.
rated it.
Sure. Um, I'll say, one of the biggest highlights of the movie was the music and lyrics. They really slowed down when they were playing a new song.
Yeah,
Sometimes, like a couple of times in the documentary, they would really slow down and emphasize the lyrics. And I'm already watching with captions and subtitles on because I just watch all my movies that way.
yeah,
Um, but they were like literally putting the kind of like the old school typographic
yeah,
videos. They were actually putting the lyrics on the screen, um, and just really powerful lyrics that really resonated and proved that the struggles existed for a long time. These are songs that were
hmm,
made hundreds of years ago that still have lyrics that like it could have been written last week, and you're
yeah,
like, oh wow, I can't believe that that's the same thing. I'll also say, as a podcast full of white dudes,
yeah,
it's really difficult to even fully understand the struggle that's being discussed
yeah,
in the documentary.
100%.
Um, but I definitely appreciate the fact that technology has made it easier to open a window and see like what's going on,
Yeah,
so we can make a
yeah,
change for things that aren't justice, that things that aren't fair.
yeah,
Um, that have been going on. Um, but it is sobering, like kind
Yep.
of like what you said, kind of like what I said earlier too. Like it's a difficult topic to even talk about,
Yep.
because being presented with like this is the violence that has been shown to other people, it's not something that's enjoyable to like sit there and be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is great. It's horrible, it's awful,
Yeah.
but um, yeah, I thought the documentary was well researched. I felt like a lot of their talking heads, like all the people who were there to speak, they were well researched and they
Hmm.
knew what they were talking about.
Well spoken as
Um,
well.
yeah, well spoken. And like you said, it was I will agree with you. It was kind of weird to have a couple like not straw men, but just like kind of easy arguments to knock
Yeah.
down. Like
Yeah.
they just kind of were like, here's all these people that are really polished and well spoken. They know what they're talking about. Here's a couple opposing views that kind of
Yeah.
stink, and then they're
And
out of here.
and here's
Peace and
here's
understand.
Gary, who obviously did not know what we were filming about today. And I mean,
Right.
again, I do want to say, like, to the point of the movie, like at the end of it, I was very heartbroken. Like I do,
Hmm.
I want to emphasize that it's not the content of the movie that I'm disagreeing with, or that I didn't enjoy.
Hmm.
I mean, I didn't enjoy watching it. It's very very sad to watch, but I think what was really like sobering for me is sitting there going, this movie was made in 2017, if I remember, and
15,
15, I
16.
can't remember, somewhere in
Yeah,
that age. And then it's the question
16.
that came to my mind was, how much has actually changed since they made that movie? Right,
Right.
we're 6 years on from that, almost 7 years on from when that movie was created. And has that documentary uh, pointed to the reality that not much has actually changed since then,
Right.
or are there positive changes that have come out of that? And so, I mean, that was very very sobering for me. Very like, this is just, it's heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking world
Yeah.
we live in.
Yep. I'll say another thing, and this is the main crux of the movie. Almost every time they say the word criminal, they cut the documentary and they put a huge
Yeah.
black screen with the word criminal written across
Yep.
it. And they're really emphasizing the fact, for those that have not watched the movies, I guess we could get into the spoiler
Yeah, kind of
area.
a
So
spoiler.
a little bit of a spoiler, but I mean, it's a documentary. This stuff happened. You may know about it without watching the movie. Um, Getting into like whenever the 13th Amendment, which the movie was named for, um, says that slavery is abolished, except in the case of criminals who can still be treated as slaves, is basically the layman's way
Yeah.
of saying like the government is utilizing a clause in an amendment that is saying basically we can still treat criminals as slaves, and we can use them as indentured servants. We can, some of the stats and figures that came out of this movie were America has 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prisoners
Yeah.
population, which is
Outrageous.
just insane to think about. And the fact that we're keeping people in prisons and criminalized so that we are making money off of them, or so
Hmm.
that we are keeping them as slavery or labor. And that's the justice that we're standing up against, right? And that's what the movie is pretty much all about.
Yeah.
And so when they're flashing up the graphic on the screen, the criminal, every time they say the word criminal, what they're trying to say is they're always um, they've been made to try and make Black Americans synonymous with the word criminal,
Yeah.
so that we can continue to keep them in slavery. Um, One of the things I know that racism's still out there. I know that you know they have been treated poorly and awfully in the past. Um, but it kind of had a negative effect for me in the documentary that they kept flashing the word criminal up on the screen when they were trying to separate themselves from
Oh,
that
interesting.
terminology. It was, for
So it
me, it
did the
was a little bit
reverse for you.
right. It really called out, like, this goes without saying, this sounds stupid to even say it, I don't think all Black people are criminals. And so it's weird that every time you say criminal or Black person, you're like throwing that up on the screen. And maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe they're just trying to really drive that point home to me. Um, but for me, I don't feel like a majority of people have that feeling. You know what I mean? I might be talking in circle here, but um, I really think the people who are breaking the law, we need to punish, of course, but we
Yeah.
don't need to be putting them away forever. We don't
Yeah.
need to be
Yeah.
using,
Agreed.
like, there's no point that you can't walk back from. There's no, like,
Yeah.
forgiveness that you can't find. I don't think anybody is worthless or wasted. Whereas a lot of people think, you mess up one time and then you're kept down forever.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really a hard way to take that.
Yeah. 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 I agree. 100%. I think I do think the movie pointed to the sad reality of the way the world has gone and the
Yeah.
way that prison has become a monopoly, and it entraps people for life ultimately, whether you're in or out. Once you get out, you're still trapped in the same rhythm and routine, unfortunately. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was again, unbelievable movie.
Yep.
As far as should you watch it, yes, you should watch it. I think
Yeah.
everybody should go watch it at least once, and see what it does for you, how it impacts you, whether you have the same feelings we did, or whether you felt like it was a bit of a waste of time, which hopefully you don't feel that way. But I know that that's the reality of our world. People will watch it and go, well, that was bias, or it was
Right.
unfair,
Sure.
or it wasn't true, or whatever. But go watch 13th on Netflix. I genuinely believe you should see what it has to say. So that's my final thoughts on it. Do you have anything else you want to say on the movie, or
Got nothing else. Do we have anything else from Justin?
no, I don't think we have anything else for Justin. And we will roll for the next movie. I keep saying roll. It's not really a roll, is it?
Well, I'm randomizing it. I'm rolling for a number. So if you've never watched the end of an episode before, what we do is we have a list of movies that we're watching to watch before we die. Currently, the list is 1,246 movies long. We have completed 2 movies.
Let's go.
And so that leaves us with 1,244 movies. And I'm generating a random number to pick our next movie to watch. So generating that number right now, it's number 703. We finally get a low number.
Going backwards. I'm
They're
guessing like
going
19.
down.
I'm saying 1960s or 70s.
Okay. Let's see, 703. Making sure I get this right. The movie is 1981.
Oh, I was off.
And the movie title is Three Brothers.
Three Brothers. I think I've seen this. No. No, I've seen Four Brothers. Sorry, that's a different film altogether. Four Brothers might not be on this list.
All right.
Give us what Three Brothers is about.
It is rated PG.
Okay.
1981. It's a drama, and it's 1 hour and 53 minutes.
Okay, and
Three Brothers.
Is there anywhere we can watch it quickly, accessibly, or is this going to be
looking right now?
Hunt?
It's distributed by Netflix, so it might be on there.
All right. Well, we can hope that it is on Netflix. Three Brothers, the 1981 film, I believe you said. 1981?
Yes, 1981.
All right, and hopefully you'll watch along with us. Make sure if you did watch 13th and you have a rating, put that in the comments, because we are going to add your ratings to our list as well, to tally it up to see what these movies come out at. So
absolutely.
We will hopefully see you in the next one. And for Justin, I'll do his stance.